This morning, outbreak fears the first human-to-human coronavirus transmission confirmed in Australia as authorities warn against close contact. Scaffolding collapse, frightening scenes in Sydney as a metal structure comes crashing down. And a gang of armed robbers gets more than they bargained for. They're surprised when a father and son fight back.
This is 7 News with Natalie Barr.
Good morning. There are growing fears we're on the brink of a domestic outbreak of coronavirus after confirmation of the first human-to-human transmission in Australia. Health authorities are now advising people to stop shaking hands as the deadly virus spreads.
Bracing for an outbreak.
We are going to expect to see more cases in Australia.
For the first time in Australia, coronavirus has not been contracted overseas, but here. The sister of an Iranian man who returned from Iran tested positive for the virus, but more concerningly, a Sydney healthcare worker is also infected.
New South Wales Health has commenced that work to determine what contacts he may have had. How did he actually get the transmission is obviously an issue.
The number of cases in Australia is steadily growing, currently sitting at 33. Globally, the number of deaths has risen to more than 3,000. Schools and universities have closed, while the famous Louvre Museum in Paris remains shut. But as the virus spreads, doctors have found one unlikely age group that appears less susceptible.
Children seem to be relatively unaffected by this coronavirus. There have been no deaths of children worldwide under 9 years of age, and the few children that have been infected seem to be pretty mildly infected.
Scientists and drug companies are racing to develop a vaccine, but it's anywhere from 12 to 18 months off, as health authorities now warn of avoiding personal contact.
I think it's time for us to cease the handshaking and to good pat on the back when you're saying hello.
Georgia Holland, 7 News.
The global coronavirus spread is growing, but the federal government has stopped short of extending travel bans to Italy and South Korea. Political reporter Olivia Leeming is in Canberra. Australians are being advised to reconsider travel, Olivia.
Yeah, the travel advice has been upgraded while the travel ban remains in place for any Australians travelling to Iran. A different approach has been taken for Italy and South Korea. All Australians, if they're heading to Italy, urged to exercise a high degree of caution and reconsider the need to travel to 10 towns affected by the virus in the country's north. Also urging all Australians to take that same high degree of caution in South Korea, while there is specific advice for health workers who have travelled to either of these countries returning to Australia. Here's more from the Health Minister.
If you are returning from Italy or South Korea and you work as a healthcare worker or as a residential aged care worker, you should not attend your regular work for 14 days.
Now, there are also concerns within the government about the impact of the coronavirus on the economy. Warnings of a slowdown within the building and construction industry as global supply chains are affected. Australia's interest rates also expected to take a hit. The Reserve Bank expected to cut the official cash rate today by 0.25% to a new record low of 0.5%. The OECD last night lowering its forecast for Australia's growth from annual GDP from 0.5% to 1.8%. So we're expecting more shocks to come. Nat?
OK, thanks, Olivia. Scaffolding has collapsed onto a block of home units in Sydney's south. The 3-storey metal structure came crashing down in strong winds at Cogra late yesterday afternoon. Residents were told to stay indoors while a crane was brought in to remove the scaffolding overnight. No one was injured in the collapse. A father and son have spoken of the moment they took on an armed gang that stormed their Melbourne supermarket and threatened to kill them. The 4 men, armed with a gun and a taser, opened fire in the IGA. Jackie Chen and his son decided to fight back despite the gunfire.
I can't feel it. The only thing I think, I'm going to do something for my family, to help them to get rid of this trouble.
3 of the bandits fled in a white van, but the owners managed to hold down a 4th until police arrived. He was taken to hospital and is yet to be questioned. An elderly Queensland woman is recovering after spending 3 days in crocodile-infested waters north of Mackay. Searchers in a rescue helicopter spotted the 83-year-old 2 kilometres away from her home after she wandered off.
A small hole in acres of cane fields, easy to miss to the untrained eye, but for rescuers it was exactly what they were searching for. Landing nearby, they waded through mud and dense crops, then finally, success. Barbara Mainchek found alive after an exhaustive land, air and water search.
She was moaning and sort of tired and upset and obviously dehydrated, but it's great to see her alive.
The dementia patient wandered away from her Yalbaroo home, 60 kilometres northwest of Mackay, last Friday morning.
In the field, with SES and the people that are doing the foot searches, we've had up to 35 per day.
Severely dehydrated, Barbara was airlifted to Mackay Hospital in a serious but stable condition. Relief for rescue crews who stayed positive despite the odds.
She was under 2 k's away, so her house is on the other side of the highway. She's obviously gone for a walk and crossed the road and sort of stumbled into the paddock there.
Barbara is expected to be released from hospital this morning. Her family thankful no one gave up hope. Eliza Avery, 7 News.
Good Start Early Learning will resume bus services across Australia this morning, 2 weeks after a 3-year-old boy was left unattended and tragically died in Cairns. A safety review has led to a number of changes, including 3 clearly designated roles. A supervisor will now sit at the back of the bus and check the vehicle is empty as they leave. Both the driver and staff member of the Cairns Centre have been charged with manslaughter over the little boy's death. The Edmonton Centre, the tragic incident occurred, remains closed. A Sydney ambulance responding to an emergency has been hit by a truck, causing the vehicle to skid along the road and roll. Miraculously, the paramedics inside were uninjured. The terrifying moment all caught on the truck's dash cam.
It's the view from the driver's seat of a truck approaching the intersection near Wentworth Avenue. The light goes green, but zooming in from the right, an ambulance. The vehicle, travelling under lights and sirens, was heading to an emergency. The collision caused the ambulance to roll. The driver of the truck and passing motorists rushed to help. One paramedic is out. He bends over to catch his breath. Remarkably, he and his partner aren't hurt.
It was a big scare. The ambulance was hit in the middle of the intersection and rolled all the way up here.
Help arrived. The police, firefighters and their own colleagues.
The paramedics remained calm and relaxed. Both paramedics were able to extricate themselves without assistance.
One went back in to get his gear, while another paramedic helped calm the truck driver.
The first thing that I hear is just the van, hitting the ambulance. It was so quick. So quick.
As the wreckage was cleared away, another ambulance was sent to the original emergency. A close call and a timely reminder: when you see those flashing lights, take care. Miley Hogan, 7 News.
A hotel worker has been warned he could be going to jail next month after pleading guilty to stealing up to 1,000 pairs of underwear from female guests. The man has also pleaded guilty to new charges after tracking some of his victims on social media.
He was trusted with key access to any hotel room, a position of responsibility that proved too tempting for Daniel Hamilton.
What do you want to say to all these women you've stolen from?
Mr. Hamilton, is your fetish under control now?
2 more victims have been identified. Hamilton pleading guilty to accessing the suites of a total of 4 women and their daughters, rifling through their luggage to find used underwear and stealing it for his own sexual gratification.
Have you stopped stealing women's underwear now?
Once sacked from the Ibis on Pitt Street, he went on to the Ridges at the International Airport. There he was caught red-handed by guests who returned to their room to find him crouching behind their bed. "Sorry, I thought you'd already checked out." His victims telling 7 News they're still feeling violated, ashamed and embarrassed.
We have had one trip since then and we made sure we kept the Do Not Disturb sign on the door.
As if keeping their used underwear wasn't bad enough, what police found on his personal computer was even more troubling. He'd gone to the effort of tracking down some of his victims on their social media accounts.
But I'm glad he's pleaded guilty. Hopefully he'll get help because I think he needs it.
The magistrate has indicated he could be going to jail when sentenced next month. Evan Batten, 7 News.
Coming up on Sunrise, superstar Kesha performs live in the Plaza. But next on 7 Early News, who will take on Donald Trump in the race for the White House? The answer could soon be confirmed as Democrat candidates gear up for Super Tuesday. And the journeyman turtle breaking records. How far has Yoshi travelled? Democrat voters in the US are gearing up for Super Tuesday, the biggest day of the primary campaign. 14 states across the country will hold nominating contests to pick who they think should face off against Donald Trump. Bernie Sanders is the current frontrunner and is tipped to win big in California. Former Vice President Joe Biden is hoping to ride a wave of momentum after his recent win in South Carolina. And New York billionaire Mike Bloomberg is on the ballot for the first time after spending hundreds of millions of dollars on his campaign. North Korea has launched 2 short-range missiles, marking the country's first weapons test in 3 months. Both came down in waters between the launch site and Japan, around 300 kilometres off the coast of North Korea. South Korea was quick to condemn the military action, saying it's not helping efforts to ease tensions on the peninsula. A disgruntled former security guard in the Philippines shot one person and took more than 30 others hostage at a shopping mall near Manila. After releasing his hostages, the man was allowed to speak briefly to the press before heavily armed officers tackled and arrested him. Hundreds of shoppers and employees were evacuated from the mall during the 5-hour-long siege. Checking finance now, the Dow Jones has rebounded in a volatile trading session. The Nasdaq is also trading up. In London, the FT 100 added 74 points. Germany's DAX lost. Closer to home, Japan's Nikkei closed 201 points higher. Hong Kong's Hang Seng rose sharply. The All Ords and the ASX 200 both traded lower yesterday. Commodities, gold is trading at $1,594 an ounce. Oil is $47 a barrel. The Aussie dollar is buying 65 US cents, 70 yen and $1.04 New Zealand. It's one of the oldest professions in the world, but in the past few years, farming has been transformed by technology, X-rays and thermal imaging, improving safety, shelf life and the quality of our favourite fruit and vegetables.
It looks like medical imaging.
There's a hollow.
But all this X-ray scans is problems with potatoes.
Which could be metal detection, could be wood, could be clods of dirt.
Machines sending subpar spuds straight to the bin. At Sunny Ridge Strawberry Farms, getting produce from paddock to punnet and then plate now follows new protocols after the needle contamination crisis of 2018.
Spent a lot of time thinking about how we provide consumers with the best possible confidence around the product.
Picked, then packed with a tamper-evident seal. All 8 million punnets go through the X-ray.
We're seeing growth again in berries, which is wonderful to see.
Sent to distribution centres.
This is where we come into it. We'll actually look at the stock when it arrives.
Greg Ross is a quality control inspector. He visually and physically checks around 1 in 20 boxes, then takes the fruit's temperature, tests its sweetness and pressure to tell how ripe it is, spending all day in 3 degrees.
One of the most important things with produce is temperature.
And this is the end product, food that's safer, better quality and lasts longer in the fridge. Georgie Chumley, 7 News.
An endangered turtle who spent 2 decades trapped in an aquarium tank has set a new world record following her release into the wild. Yoshi, the loggerhead turtle, travelled 37,000 kilometres over 26 months, claiming the longest journey of any tracked animal ever. She's currently enjoying her freedom off the WA coast, adding an Australian stamp to her passport alongside South Africa, Namibia and Angola. But next on 7 Early News, 6 AFL players sanctioned after a fiery match between Fremantle and Carlton. And Australia's star all-rounder Elise Perry is in serious doubt for the remainder of the T20 World Cup. To sport now, and the T20 World Cup could be over for Aussie all-rounder Elise Perry after injuring her hamstring in their 4-run victory over New Zealand. After the top order faltered, Beth Mooney starred, smashing 60 off 50 balls, defending 155 in their must-win match. Disaster struck for Perry and the Aussies.
Her hamstring. You can see the pain, the grimace on her face. That is not good signs.
Already carrying a hip injury, Perry was seen limping off the ground with medical staff before Georgia Wareham and Megan Shute bowled Australia to victory. They will play the semi-final at the SCG on Thursday, with their opponent decided today. Geelong's Jordan Ivey has received a one-match suspension for front-on contact with Richmond's Katie Brennan. Ivey collected Brennan in a dangerous bump in the third quarter, leaving Brennan groggy and needing her throat examined.
Ivey was high on her. That was dangerous. And things go quiet at Queen Elizabeth Oval.
6 players have been sanctioned after Saturday's clash between Freo and Carlton. Docker Blake Acres, Blues captain Sam Docherty and Jack Nunes were all offered $1,000 fines following this scuffle, while Jack Martin and Andrew Brayshaw were charged with making careless contact with an umpire. The new Captain's Challenge has been given the tick of approval for the 2020 NRL season. Speaking at the season launch in Brisbane yesterday, Todd Greenberg said a decision will be made on expansion by the end of the year.
We know there's an extremely strong appetite for another club in Queensland. We acknowledge that. I can't give you any answers on when or who.
Greenberg says Josh Morris's potential move to the Roosters is up to the Premiers and the Sharks to make it a fair deal. With Dylan Edwards sidelined for 2 months, Penrith is set to call on Caleb Aikens to fill a big void at fullback. The 22-year-old is juggling a fair bit right now as he prepares for the Roosters on Saturday week and fatherhood.
Plenty of big names are putting their hand up to turn Penrith's fortunes around in 2020, but fans should keep an eye on Kiwi-born Caleb Aikens. He's endured a frantic 7 days, becoming a dad for the first time and thrown in the deep end at the Panthers.
Good take there by Caleb Aikens.
Dylan Edwards' ankle injury opening the door for Aikens to start at fullback in round 1 against the Roosters.
I'm excited for what the season has to bring for me, obviously with all that's gone on over the last week.
Little Nixon's arrival has given Caleb a new perspective on life.
Yeah, it can be a bit daunting, but I've been changing a couple nappies and helping out where I can.
Aikens' performance against Parramatta took care of a big headache for coach Ivan Cleary.
He just said that he thought I played good and nice and safe. Yeah, didn't do much wrong.
We have full confidence in Caleb. It's very exciting to watch and watch out.
Aikens admits his rise to the top hasn't always been easy.
When I first came over, kind of had me in all sorts and I was thinking about going home and that, but just having James Fisher-Harrison, Corey Nida, the boys that from up my area around me really helped me push through.
It's set to be a tough initiation here for the 22-year-old on March 14. He'll be tested by the world's best when the Panthers do battle with the Roosters in the opening round.
That'll be a big effort first round, but I think we've got the team to do it.
Michelle Bishop, 7 News.
The Aussie women's water polo team has been forced to rethink upcoming training camps in Europe due to coronavirus concerns. The Stingers have instead gone into camp for 2 weeks in Canberra after cancelling a trip to train in Italy and Hungary due to the virus.
You've got to be really resilient. You've got to be able to make the most of your time when you get it. We face challenges in Rio, we face them in London, so it's nothing that this team can't handle.
There are 15 players in the squad pushing hard ahead of final Olympic selection. Melbourne United have forced NBL minor premiers the Sydney Kings into a third and deciding semi-final clash. After a closely contested first quarter in Melbourne, United's Sean Long blew the scoreline apart, Long starring with 26 points in his side's comprehensive 125-80 thumping.
Opportunity for Long to go one-on-one with the big fella. Thank you. Andrew Bogut gets it done. And how's the celebration?
The series decider is on Thursday night at Sydney Olympic Park, with the winner moving through to the final. Next on 7 Early News, a look at how the weather's shaping up in your part of the country. Dozens of couples in the UK have taken part in a rather unusual event, the 13th annual Wife Carrying Championships. Competitors braved cold and soggy conditions to complete the 380-metre course in Surrey. The rules are strict. Only approved holds can be used and there are penalties for dropping your wife. First prize is a barrel of ale. The winners will also compete at the World Wife Carrying Championships in Finland in July. Taking a look at the weather right around the country, a low and trough near the quadruple border of Northern Territory, Queensland, South Australia and New South Wales will bring increasing showers and storm activity to the area, tending to rain at times. Cooler and showery for northern New South Wales in southeasterly winds. Around the capitals, mostly sunny in Brisbane, a shower or two in Sydney, late rain in Canberra today, cloudy and 20 degrees in Melbourne, partly cloudy in Hobart and Adelaide, sunny in Perth, 32 for you, and showers and possible storms in Darwin today. 37's early news for this Tuesday, the 3rd of March. I'm Natalie Barr. Now it's time for Sunrise with Koshi and Sam.